The wormhole appeared on a Tuesday. It opened like a wound in space, spinning slowly at the edge of the Galactic Assembly's territory. Purple light spilled from its center. Energy waves pushed outward like a heartbeat. Every sensor in the galaxy turned to look at it. No one knew where it came from. No one knew where it led. The Galactic Assembly had existed for 10,000 years. 200 species worked together under its rules. They had mapped most of the known universe. They had solved problems that would take humans millions of years to understand. But this wormhole was different. This wormhole scared them. Probe after probe went in. None came back. Ships vanished the moment they crossed the edge. The radiation levels were enough to kill most life forms in seconds. The Assembly's best scientists studied it for months. They found nothing useful. We need a pilot, the Council finally decided. A living being must go through. The request went out to all 200 species. The Council offered wealth, power, and eternal honor to any volunteer. They waited. No one came forward. The Volok's, a species of tall crystalline beings, calculated the survival odds at 0.003%. The Marathi, who lived for thousands of years, refused to risk even one of their people for such a small chance. The Tauric, famous warriors who feared nothing, stayed silent. Even the machines of the collective, who felt no pain and feared no death, said the mission was pointless. Humans had only joined the Assembly 40 years ago. They were new. They were weak. They lived barely 100 years, while others lived for millennia. Their technology was basic. Their territory was small. Most species forgot they existed. So when Captain Park Dohon raised his hand, the entire council stopped talking. He was 34 years old. Average height. Black hair cut short in military style. He wore the simple gray uniform of Earth's Space Corps. Compared to the glowing beings and massive creatures around him, he looked like a child. "I will go," he said. The council chamber fell silent. Thousands of eyes, sensors, and other organs turned to look at him. "Human," the lead counselor said slowly. The counselor was a Velox, and his crystal body flickered with confusion. "You understand what we are asking. The radiation will likely kill you within minutes. Even if you survive the crossing, we have no idea what exists on the other side. You will probably die alone, far from your home, with no one to remember your name." The one nodded. "I understand. Then why?" Another counselor asked. This one was Marathi, a being made of flowing silver liquid. "Your species lives such short lives already. Why throw away the few decades you have left?" Dohan thought about the question. He thought about his wife, Gina, waiting for him back on the human station. He thought about his parents, who had died in a shuttle accident when he was young. He thought about every human who had ever looked up at the stars and wondered what was out there. "Someone has to know," he finally said. "Someone has to see what is on the other side. If I die, at least I die trying to answer a question worth asking." The council did not understand. They could not understand. To beings who lived for thousands of years, such a sacrifice made no sense. Why trade certain decades for uncertain seconds? But they accepted his offer. The news spread across the galaxy within hours. A human had volunteered for the suicide mission. Most species laughed. Some felt something close to pity. A few, very few, felt something they could not name. Something like respect. Dahlin spent his last week on the human station. He trained. He studied every piece of data about the wormhole. He prepared his ship, a small vessel called the Heta, named after a mythical beast from old Korean legends. The beast was said to judge right from wrong and protect the innocent. On his final night, Gina came to him. She was a xenobiologist, a scientist who studied alien life. They had been married for 6 years. She had short, dark hair and tired eyes. And she was the strongest person Do-hun had ever known. "You do not have to do this," she said. "I know. No one will think less of you if you change your mind." Do-hun smiled. "I would think less of myself." Gina did not cry. She never cried. Instead, she held his face in her hands and looked into his eyes. "Come back to me," she said. "Promise me. I promise." They both knew it was probably a lie. But some lies are necessary. Some lies give us the strength to keep going. The next morning, the entire assembly watched as the Heta launched toward the wormhole. Billions of beings across thousands of worlds saw the small human ship fly into the unknown. Gina stood in mission control, her eyes fixed on the screen. She watched the ship get smaller and smaller. She watched it reach the edge of the wormhole. She watched the purple light swallow it whole. Then the connection cut. Static filled every screen. Every sensor went dark. The Het was gone. The council waited 1 hour. Then 2, then 12. Nothing came back. No signal. No data. Nothing. "The human is dead," the lead counselor announced. "Mark him as lost. His sacrifice, while pointless, will be noted in the records." But Gina did not move from her post. She stayed there for hours. Then days. Her colleagues brought her food and water. They begged her to rest. She refused. "He promised," she said simply. "He promised he would come back." Somewhere, across time and space, the wormhole continued to spin. It kept its secrets. It waited and deep inside its purple light, far beyond where any sensor could reach. A small ship tumbled through darkness. Park Do-hun was still alive, but he was no longer in his own galaxy. He was no longer in his own time, and his journey was only beginning. 3 years passed. The galaxy moved on. New problems appeared. Old conflicts returned. The wormhole became yesterday's news. Most species stopped thinking about it. Most species forgot about the human, who had flown into its purple light. But Gina did not forget. She still worked at the same station. She still watched the same screens. Every morning, she checked the sensors pointed at the wormhole. Every evening, she studied the data, looking for any sign, any signal, anything at all. Her colleagues thought she was crazy. Her friends worried about her health. Even her family back on Earth sent messages asking her to come home. She ignored them all. "You need to stop this," her friend Suho said one day. He was a doctor on the station, and he had known both Gina and Do-hun since their academy days. "It has been 3 years. He's not coming back." Gina did not look up from her screen. "You do not know that. The radiation alone would have killed him in minutes." The council declared him dead on the first day. Every scientist in the galaxy agrees that nothing could survive that crossing. Then they are all wrong. Suho sighed. He sat down next to her and watched the data scroll across the screen. Numbers and graphs that meant nothing to him but meant everything to her. "Gina," he said softly. "I miss him too. He was my friend. But this is not healthy. You have not taken a vacation in 3 years. You have not visited your family. You barely eat. You barely sleep. Do-hun would not want this for you." For the first time, Gina stopped working. She turned to look at Suho, and he saw something in her eyes that made him lean back. Not anger, not sadness. Something harder. Something that would not bend or break. "He promised me," she said. "He looked into my eyes and promised he would come back." Do-hun never broke a promise. Not once in the 12 years I knew him. So either he is still alive and trying to get home, or he is dead, and I will wait until I know for certain. Those are the only 2 options I will accept. Suho had no answer to that. He left her alone with her screens and her hope. Meanwhile, the wormhole was changing. It started small. A pulse of extra energy here. A strange radiation spiked there. The assembly sensors picked up the changes, but no one could explain them. The wormhole seemed to be waking up. Fear spread through the council chambers. Some species wanted to destroy the wormhole before something dangerous came through. Others wanted to study it more. Arguments broke out. Alliances shifted. A cold war began between those who wanted action and those who wanted patience. Ambassador Choi Yoonji stood in the middle of it all. She was humanity's voice in the council. 52 years old, with gray streaks in her black hair and a face that had seen too many political battles. She had fought for human rights in the assembly for 20 years. She had won some fights and lost others. But she had never given up. Now she faced her hardest fight yet. The wormhole must be destroyed, the Velox counselor said during a heated meeting. Every day it exists is a day we risk disaster. Something could come through. Something that wants to hurt us. Or something that wants to help us, Yoonji replied. We sent a man through that wormhole. A human who gave his life to answer our questions. Destroying it now would mean his sacrifice was for nothing. His sacrifice was for nothing already, the Marathi counselor said coldly. He died the moment he crossed the edge. There is no point in protecting a grave. Yoonji felt anger rise in her chest, but she pushed it down. Anger would not help her here. Only words would help. You call yourselves the Galactic Assembly, she said, looking around the chamber. You have existed for 10,000 years. You have solved impossible problems. You have united 200 species under one banner. And now you are afraid of a hole in space? We are being practical, the Velox said. You are being cowards. The chamber went silent. No one spoke to the council like that. No one called them cowards to their faces. Yoonji continued. Humans have only been part of this assembly for 40 years. We are young. We are weak. We know nothing compared to your ancient wisdom. But we know one thing that you seem to have forgotten. We know that fear is not a reason to stop. Fear is a reason to keep going. She pointed at the holographic image of the wormhole floating above the chamber. That wormhole holds secrets. It holds answers. Maybe it holds danger too. But running away from danger has never solved anything. Hiding from the unknown has never made anyone safer. If something is coming through that wormhole, we need to know what it is. We need to face it. We need to be ready. The council debated for 3 more days. In the end, they reached a compromise. The wormhole would not be destroyed yet. But a deadline was set. If nothing happened in 30 days, the assembly would collapse it forever. Yoonji sent a message to Gina that night. She told her about the decision. She told her about the deadline. Jina read the message and felt something cold settle in her stomach. 30 days. After 3 years of waiting, she had only 30 days left. She went back to her screens. She watched the data. She searched for any sign of the Hedda, any signal from Dawn, anything that might prove he was still alive. The days passed. 29, 28, 20-7. Nothing changed. The wormhole pulsed and spun, keeping its secrets locked away. 20 days. 15:10. Jina stopped sleeping entirely. She lived on coffee and determination. Suho tried to help her, but there was nothing he could do. She was beyond help now. She was beyond everything except hope. 5 days. 4, 3, 2. On day 29, Gina sat alone in mission control. Everyone else had gone home. The lights were dim. The screens glowed with the same data they had shown for 3 years. She was so tired. Her eyes burned. Her hand shook. She had given everything she had, and it was not enough. Please, she whispered to the empty room. Please come back. The screens flickered. Gina sat up straight. Her heart stopped. Her breath caught in her throat. The sensors were going crazy. Energy readings spiked off the charts. The wormhole was opening wider than ever before, and something was coming through. Gina watched as a shape emerged from the purple light. A ship, a familiar ship, but different, bigger, covered in strange metal that glowed with colors she had never seen. Alarms rang throughout the station. People rushed to their posts. The entire galaxy turned its attention to the wormhole once again, but Gina did not hear any of it. She only saw one thing. One name on her screen. The HAET. He had come back, just like he promised. The Hatton was not the same ship that had left on. It was bigger now, 3 times its original size. The hull was covered in a strange black metal that seemed to drink in light rather than reflect it. Blue lines ran across its surface like veins, pulsing with energy that the assembly sensors could not identify. The ship moved slowly out of the wormhole and stopped in the middle of the station's docking zone. It made no sound. It sent no signals. It simply waited. Within minutes, every warship in the sector surrounded it. Weapons were charged. Shields were raised. The council watched from their chambers, ready to give the order to fire. "Identify yourself," the Velox counselor commanded through the communication channel. "State your purpose." Silence. "This is your final warning. Identify yourself or you will be destroyed." More silence. Then, after what felt like forever, a voice came through. A human voice, speaking in Korean, then switching to the common language of the assembly. "This is Captain Park Do-hun of the HFY, requesting permission to dock." The council chamber erupted in chaos. Voices shouted over each other. Counselors demanded explanations. How was this possible? The humans should be dead. Nothing could survive the crossing. Nothing could survive 3 years on the other side of that wormhole. But the voice was real. The ship was real. And it was waiting for an answer. Ambassador Yoonji pushed her way to the communication panel. "Permission granted," she said before anyone could stop her. "Welcome home, Captain." The HFY moved toward the docking bay. Its movements were smooth and silent, far more advanced than any human ship should be. When it finally connected to the station, the entire structure shook from its mass. Gina was already running. She pushed through crowds of soldiers and scientists. She ignored the security officers who tried to stop her. Nothing would keep her from that ship. Nothing would keep her from him. The docking bay doors opened. White light spilled out, so bright that everyone had to shield their eyes. Then, a figure appeared in the doorway. Park Do-hun stepped onto the station. He looked the same. The same height. The same face. The same military posture. But something was different. Something was wrong. His movements were too smooth, too controlled. His eyes were too calm, too deep. He looked like Do-hun, but he felt like something else entirely. Gina stopped a few meters away from him. For a moment, neither of them moved. Then Do-hun smiled. It was his smile. The same smile she had fallen in love with 12 years ago. The same smile he had given her on their wedding day. "I am sorry it took so long," he said. Gina ran to him. She threw her arms around him and held him so tight that it hurt. He was warm. He was real. He was here. "You came back," she whispered into his chest. "You actually came back." "I promised," he said softly. "I never break my promises." Around them, chaos continued. Medical teams wanted to examine him. Scientists wanted to study his ship. Security wanted to question him. The council demanded immediate answers, but Do-hun did not move. He just held his wife and breathed in the smell of her hair. For that one moment, nothing else mattered. Then the questions began. They took him to a medical bay first. Doctors from a dozen species scanned every part of his body. What they found made them very, very afraid. His cells had changed. His DNA was different. There were structures inside him that should not exist. Tiny machines too small to see that seemed to repair any damage instantly. His brain showed activity in areas that had never been active before. His heart beat in a pattern that no human heart had ever beaten. "What happened to you?" Suho asked. He was looking at the scans with wide eyes. You are still human, but you are not the same. Something changed you." Doan nodded slowly. "Yes, something did." "What?" "Time. 800 years of time." The room went silent. Doan looked around at all the frightened faces. He understood their fear. He had felt the same fear long ago when he first realized what was happening to him. "Time moves differently on the other side of the wormhole," he explained. "For you, 3 years passed. For me, it was 800. I lived through centuries while you lived through seasons." "That is impossible," a Velok scientist said. "Temporal variation of that scale would require energy levels beyond anything we have ever measured. The beings who created the wormhole had energy beyond anything you have ever imagined," Dohon replied. "They had technology that makes our greatest achievements look like toys. And they used that technology to test me." "Test you?" "Test you how?" Dohon was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice was heavy with memories. "They made me survive," he said. "They put me in a world of trials and challenges. Puzzles that took decades to solve. Enemies that seemed impossible to defeat. Environments that killed me over and over again." He paused. "I died 2,147 times. Each time, they brought me back. Each time, they made me a little stronger, a little smarter, a little harder to kill. They were testing me to see if I was worthy." "Worthy of what?" Gina asked. She was still holding his hand. She had not let go since he arrived. Dohan looked at her with those ancient eyes. Eyes that had seen 8 centuries of struggle. Eyes that had watched himself die more times than anyone should ever have to count. "Worthy of inheriting their knowledge," he said. "Worthy of carrying their warning." "Warning?" Ambassador Yunji stepped forward. "What warning?" Dohan turned to face her. For the first time since his return, his expression changed. The calm faded. Something darker took its place. Something that looked almost like fear. The beings who created the wormhole were the first civilization. They existed billions of years ago. They spread life across the universe. They built wonders that we cannot even begin to understand. And they were destroyed. He let that word hang in the air. Destroyed by something that came from outside our universe. Something that hunts intelligent life. Something that is still out there, moving between galaxies, consuming everything in its path. The room was completely silent now. That something noticed this galaxy a long time ago. It has been watching, waiting, and now it is coming. Dohan looked at the assembly representatives gathered around him. He saw their fear. He saw their doubt. He saw the questions forming on their faces. The first civilization tested me because they needed someone to carry their message. They needed someone to warn the galaxy. They needed someone to prepare for what is coming. He stood straighter. His voice grew stronger. "I am that someone. And I did not come back empty-handed." Behind him, the Heta hummed with power. Inside its strange black hull, weapons and shields and technologies from a civilization older than the stars, waited to be shared. The galaxy would need every single one of them. The council chamber had never been so full. Every species in the Galactic Assembly had sent representatives. Thousands of beings filled the massive hall. Some floated in the air. Some clung to the walls. Some existed only as holograms from distant worlds. All of them had come to hear the humans speak. Park Dawn stood alone in the center of the chamber. The lights were bright above him. The eyes of the galaxy were upon him. He looked small compared to the massive beings around him. He looked fragile compared to the ancient species who had lived for millions of years. But when he spoke, everyone listened. "I will tell you about the other side of the wormhole," he began. "I will tell you what I saw and what I learned. But first, I need you to understand something. What I am about to say will be hard to believe. It will be hard to accept. Some of you will think I am lying. Some of you will think I am insane. That is okay. Just listen." He raised his hand, and a holographic display appeared above him. Stars and galaxies spun in the light. Then the image changed, showing a galaxy that looked dead and dark. This is what exists on the other side of the wormhole. A galaxy that died billions of years ago. All its stars have gone cold. All its planets have turned to dust. Nothing lives there anymore. Nothing except memories. The image changed again, showing ruins of massive structures floating in empty space. Buildings the size of planets. Ships larger than moons. Technology beyond understanding. The first civilization built all of this. They existed when our galaxy was young. They spread life across the universe like farmers planting seeds. Every species in this room, every living thing in this galaxy, exists because of them. They created us. All of us. Murmurs spread through the chamber. Some species nodded in understanding. Others shifted with discomfort. The idea that they were created by someone else was not easy to accept. But the first civilization is gone now, Dohon continued. They were destroyed by something they called the Void, a force that came from outside our universe. A hunger that consumes all intelligent life. He paused to let the words sink in. I did not believe it at first either. When their guardian AI told me about the Void, I thought it was a test. Another challenge to overcome. But then, the AI showed me the records. It showed me what happened to the first civilization. It showed me how they died. The holographic display changed again. This time, it showed something that made the entire chamber go silent. A darkness. Not empty space. Something different. Something that moved with purpose. Something that swallowed stars and planets and left nothing behind. No ruins. No dust. No memory. Just emptiness. The Void does not destroy things the way we understand destruction, Dohan explained. It does not break or burn or tear apart. It unmakes. It removes things from existence itself. When the Void takes something, it is as if that thing never existed at all. A Marathi representative raised a liquid appendage. How did you survive for 800 years against something like that? I did not fight the Void, Dohan said. The Void is not on the other side of the wormhole. It left that galaxy billions of years ago, after it finished consuming the first civilization. What I fought were the tests left behind by the guardian AI. He touched his chest. The AI was created to find worthy successors. Species who could inherit the first civilization's knowledge. Species who could prepare for the day when the Void returns to this part of the universe. And these tests? The Velox counselor asked. What were they? Dalhan's expression grew heavy. Survival challenges, puzzles, combat scenarios. The AI put me in situations where death was almost certain, then brought me back when I failed. Again and again and again. His voice dropped lower. For the first 100 years, I died almost every day. I was burned, frozen, crushed, torn apart, and dissolved more times than I can count. Each death was real. Each death was painful. And each time I came back, the AI changed me a little. Made me stronger. Made me smarter. Made me harder to kill. Gina, watching from the side of the chamber, felt tears run down her face. 800 years of pain. 800 years of dying and coming back. Her husband had suffered more than any being should ever have to suffer. By the end, Dohan continued, I was not the same person who entered the wormhole. My body had been rebuilt thousands of times. My mind had been expanded to hold knowledge that would take normal humans centuries to learn. I had become something new, something between human and something else. He looked up at the assembly, but through all of it, I held on to one thing, one memory that kept me going even when I wanted to give up. The memory of my wife, the memory of my home, the promise I made before I left. Ambassador Yunji stepped forward. Captain, you said the AI was looking for worthy successors. Did you pass its tests? Yes. And what did passing mean? Doan raised his hand again. The holographic display changed to show blueprints, designs, and technical specifications that made the assembly scientists gasp. It meant I was given a choice. I could stay in the dead galaxy forever. Live in a paradise the I created just for me. No more pain. No more death. No more tests. Peace until the end of time. He let the images spin above him. Weapons that could destroy fleets. Shields that could protect entire planets. Engines that could move faster than light itself. Or I could take everything the first civilization learned in their millions of years of existence and bring it home. I could return to warm my galaxy. I could help prepare for what is coming. The chamber was completely silent. Every being waited for his next words. I chose to come home. I chose to give up paradise because the people I love are here. Because the galaxy I belong to is here. Because running away and hiding has never been something humans are good at. He closed his hand and the holographic display disappeared. The void is coming. The AI estimates it will reach this galaxy in approximately 200 years. That is not a lot of time. But it is enough time to prepare. It is enough time to build weapons and shields and ships that can fight back. It is enough time to unite every species in this galaxy for the battle that will decide everything. A young human representative in the audience raised his hand. Captain, why did the first civilization choose you? Why did they choose a human? Doan smiled. It was a tired smile, but there was warmth in it. I asked the eye the same question. Do you know what it said? It said the first civilization did not choose humans specifically. They opened wormholes all over the universe, waiting for anyone brave enough or foolish enough to enter. He paused. In 10 billion years, across countless galaxies, only 12 beings ever passed through a wormhole voluntarily. Only 12 beings ever chose to face certain death for the chance to answer a question. I was the 12th. And I was the first one who asked to go home instead of staying in paradise. He looked around the chamber at all the ancient species. The powerful beings, the civilizations that had existed for millions of years. The AI told me that humans are strange creatures. We live such short lives, but we fight so hard to protect them. We have so little power, but we never stop trying to do the impossible. We are weak and fragile and temporary, but we never give up. His voice grew stronger. That is why I was chosen. Not because humans are the best. Not because we are the strongest. But because when the entire galaxy was too afraid to step forward, one human did. And that was enough. The truth hung in the air like smoke. Heavy and impossible to ignore. The void was coming. The galaxy had 200 years to prepare, and a single human had brought them the tools to fight. The council chamber exploded into chaos after Dohan finished speaking. Species argued with each other. Voices rose into shouts. Some demanded proof. Some called for immediate action. Others wanted to run. The fear that Dohan had warned them about was already spreading like a disease. The Velox. Counselor raised his crystalline arms for silence. It took several minutes before the chamber finally quieted down. Captain, he said, his voice stiff with barely controlled fear. "You expect us to believe that an enemy capable of destroying a civilization billions of years old is coming here? That we have only 200 years to prepare? That you, a single human, can give us the tools to fight back?" Dawan nodded calmly. "I do not expect you to believe me. I expect you to look at the evidence." He touched a panel on his wrist, and the holographic display came back to life. This time, it showed something different. Video recordings, images, data files. Billions of years of history compressed into a presentation that would take weeks to fully understand. "The AI gave me everything," Dawan said. "Every record, every weapon design, every defensive strategy that the first civilization ever developed. I spent 200 years studying these files. I spent another 300 years testing them. I know what works and what does not." He pointed at a section of the display showing massive space stations. "These are defense platforms. Each one can protect an entire solar system. They take about 50 years to build with current technology. With the knowledge I have brought back, we can cut that time in half." He pointed at another section showing strange ships. "These are combat vessels designed specifically to fight the void. They use weapons that attack the fabric of reality itself. The first civilization discovered that the void has weaknesses. It can be hurt. It can be pushed back. It cannot be killed, but it can be slowed." He pointed at a final section showing a network of connected structures. "And this is the most important thing of all. A communication network that spans galaxies. If we build this, we can warn other civilizations. We can call for help. We can unite not just this galaxy, but every galaxy we can reach." The chamber was silent again. But this time, the silence felt different. Less fearful. More thoughtful. Don Ambassador Yunji stepped forward. "Captain, even with all this knowledge, building these defenses will require every species to work together. It will require resources that some are not willing to share. It will require trust that does not exist." "I know," Dawan said. "That is why I am not asking the assembly to trust each other. I am asking them to trust me." A rumble of confusion went through the chamber. Dawan continued. "I spent 800 years preparing for this moment. Not just learning technology, but learning how to bring people together. The AI taught me that the biggest threat to any civilization is not outside enemies. It is internal division, fear, selfishness, pride. These things destroy more worlds than any void ever could." He looked around at the gathered species. "I am not a leader. I am not a king or a general or a god. I am just a man who made a promise to come home. But I have seen what happens when civilizations refuse to work together. I have seen the ruins of 1 billion worlds that could not put aside their differences. I will not let that happen here." The Marathi representative spoke up. "And if some species refuse to help? If some choose to run instead of fight?" Dawan's expression grew sad. "Then they will die alone in the darkness. The void does not chase. It does not hurry. It simply moves forward, consuming everything in its path. There is nowhere to run that it will not eventually reach. Running only delays the end. It does not prevent it." He paused. "I know some of you think that 200 years is enough time to escape. That you can pack up your civilizations and flee to another galaxy before the void arrives. The first civilization thought the same thing. They ran for 10,000 years across 1 billion worlds. In the end, it did not matter. The void found them anyway. The chamber was so quiet that Dawan could hear his own heartbeat. The only way to survive is to fight. And the only way to fight is together." For a long moment, no one moved. No one spoke. The weight of the decision pressed down on every being in the room. Then, slowly, a figure rose from the human section of the chamber. It was Ambassador Yunji. She walked down to stand beside Doan, her head held high. "Humanity will fight," she said. "We always have. We always will. It is who we are." Another figure rose. A young Velox scientist who had been studying Dohan's data. "The science is real," she said. "I have checked the calculations. If we start building now, we can be ready in time. But only if we all work together." More figures began to rise. Some were hesitant. Some were afraid. But one by one, representatives from different species stood up to show their support. The Tauric warriors, who had been too afraid to enter the wormhole, now pledged their fleets to the defense effort. The collective machines offered their manufacturing capabilities. Even the Marathi, who valued their long lives above all else, agreed to help. Within an hour, more than half the assembly had risen to their feet. The Velox counselor looked at the standing representatives with something like wonder. In 10,000 years of assembly history, he had never seen anything like this. "Very well," he said at last. "The assembly accepts Captain Dahan's warning. We will begin preparations immediately. We will build the defenses. We will share the knowledge. We will fight." He turned to look at Dohan. "And we will trust you, human, because you are the first being in 10 billion years to choose us over paradise. That means something. That means everything." Later that night, Dohan stood alone on an observation deck, watching the stars. Gina found him there, staring at the distant lights like he was seeing old friends. "Are you okay?" she asked softly. Dohan did not answer immediately. He just kept looking at the stars. "For 800 years, I dreamed of coming home," he finally said. "I dreamed of this moment. Standing here, watching these stars, feeling your hand in mine." He turned to face her. His eyes, those ancient eyes that had seen so much pain and death, were wet with tears. "I was so afraid that I would not make it, that I would die on the other side and never see you again. Every time I came back from death, I held on to your memory, your face, your voice, the way you laughed. It was the only thing that kept me human." Gina reached up and touched his face. "You are still human," she said. "Changed, different, but still the man I married. Still the man who promised to come back." Dohan smiled. For the first time since his return, it was a real smile. A warm smile. A smile that reached his eyes. "I have 200 years to help prepare this galaxy for war," he said. "But I do not want to spend those years as a soldier. I want to spend them with you. Building something. Living. Being together." Gina laughed softly. 200 years? That is a long time for a human. The changes the AI made to me will let me live much longer than that. Long enough to see the void come. Long enough to fight it. Long enough to watch the galaxy survive. He took her hands in his. "Will you wait for me?" "Again?" Gina smiled up at him. Her eyes were full of tears, but also full of hope. "I waited 3 years for you to come back from the other side of the universe. I think I can wait a little longer for you to save the galaxy." Dahan pulled her close and held her tight. Around them, the stars burned with ancient light. Somewhere out there, in the darkness between galaxies, the void moved closer. But for now, in this moment, there was only peace. The galaxy had work to do. Defenses to build. Battles to prepare for. But it also had something it had not had before. A single human had brought it back from the edge of existence. A single human had chosen love over paradise, sacrifice over safety, hope over fear. And that was enough. That was everything. The end.